Which car is better, the BMW M5 or the Porsche Panamera Turbo e-hybrid? Keep watching to find out, because the result may surprise you.
The G90 M5 only launched in 2024, but we've already spent a lot of time with it, this one being a Car Magazine long-termer. To summarise, it's big, heavy and complicated, but actually really rather good. We gave it a narrow win against the Audi RS6 and reckoned that BMW had done a thorough job transitioning into plug-in hybrid. So, I've got my hands on a car that seems to go under the radar a little these days. It's the Porsche Panamera in Turbo e-hybrid spec, and it didn't take me long to realise that this is possibly the M5's closest rival.
For example, the performance. It might be about 40 brake horsepower down on the M5, but the Panamera Turbo e-hybrid still has about 680 horses, and that means that you've just got deep reserves of acceleration that big V8 engines just do so well.
Is it as quick as the M5? Well, the 0 to 62 mile an hour time suggests it's actually a bit faster. 3.2 versus 3.5 seconds, but actually, the BMW just feels more relentless in a straight line.
Both cars use an 8-speed automatic gearbox to help feed power to all four wheels, but the Porsche has a dual-clutch PDK and the BMW has a ZF torque converter. That means the changes in the Porsche feel a bit snappier, a bit crisper. You can engineer in an extra jolt or a thump from the gearbox when you upchange in the BMW, but yeah, it feels a bit contrived, a bit unnatural. In this, it's just crisper, cleaner gear changes. But aside from that, when you're just talking about the response to the pedals and also the gearbox in automatic mode in everyday driving, there's not a huge amount to choose between the two different boxes.
In the real world, you're unlikely to see the difference in straight line performance. The BMW has more power and torque, but also more weight. Or does it?
Now, I've seen some compelling evidence from multiple sources to suggest that the BMW actually comes in a little bit under its quoted curb weight. So I reckon that both cars are going to be in the ballpark of 2.4 tons. That's still very heavy, too heavy if you ask me, but it does explain why the M5 just has the edge in a straight line.
Don't put your money on the M5 just yet though, because as a performance car that also does everyday luxury, the Porsche has at least one major advantage over the BMW.
The ride comfort in this Panamera is exceptional. So what that it's got 21-inch wheels, it is super smooth. It's not just a good ride for a sports saloon, it's a good ride for any car.
All Panameras get air suspension with adaptive dampers, hence the impressive ride. But this particular car also gets the £7,000 active ride control. What that does is jettison the rear anti-roll bars and instead use the 4 active dampers to suppress roll or pitch in the air suspension. Said dampers are controlled via 2 hydraulic pumps powered by the 400-volt architecture of the hybrid system.
It almost feels like it's not putting all of its weight over the road surface, and as such, you're just skipping across the biggest bumps. I mean, compared to the M5, it's got less of an edge to the ride, and it just feels more relaxed and more laid back in everyday driving.
It has to be said the BMW is a little quieter than the Porsche, thanks to less road noise, but otherwise, the better ride quality on the Panamera means it is just about the superior everyday car.
Also, at normal speeds, the Panamera just feels smaller on the roads, and that's because it is. The body of the M5 is 4 centimeters longer than the Panamera's, and it's also 3 centimeters wider. I mean, this Porsche is not a small car, but compared to the BMW, it almost feels like it is.
Mind you, the Panamera's cabin isn't short on space, and the lower driving position is an improvement over the M5's. There's also more physical buttons, which are easier to control, the steering wheel is thinner and nicer to hold, and the Porsche's drive mode select dial is just a simpler, more intuitive system than the BM's. That said, the touchscreen operated air vents still feel like the answer to a question that, honestly, nobody was asking. So, the Porsche is smaller and more comfortable than the BMW, with a better cabin and a better transmission. But can the M5 claw it back?
So, I've just jumped in the BMW, and the first thing that I've noticed, aside from the size difference, is the steering. Now, both cars have rear-wheel steering fitted, and they've both got variable steering ratios. But, whereas the Porsche is quite neutral and, as you'd expect, around the straight ahead, nothing too crazy, the BMW is on a whole different level. The steering, just off centre, is so unbelievably sharp. To get this thing around a corner, you barely need any lock at all.
The result, on the road at least, is that the BMW feels far lighter and on its toes than the figures suggest. It's got a wonderfully responsive front end that, once you're familiar with it, gives you huge confidence going into corners, and perhaps more impressive is that the rear can actually keep up.
Like many people, I think the M5 has too many drive mode settings. It's just a little bit complicated, but the saving grace of that is the M1 and the M2 shortcut buttons, so you can have your favorite presets just in front of you, but also the ability to switch it in the infotainment system from four-wheel drive to four-wheel drive sport and then rear-wheel drive, because what that does is it completely changes the character of this car in less than a second. If you've got your family on board, kids in the back, leave it in four-wheel drive. If you're on a road that you know well, you've got a bit of space, put it in four-wheel drive sport. And then, if you're on a track day and you've taken your big BMW M5 on a circuit, chuck it in rear-wheel drive and you will have an absolute monster.
It is shocking how much encouragement this 2-point-whatever-ton car gives you on the road. Yes, it's too wide, and yes, the suspension can feel unsettled by a consistently poor road surface, but on the right piece of tarmac, it's mind-blowingly capable.
A large part of the confidence you get when driving this car is because of the sensitivity of the controls. I would argue with anyone that reckons the steering is too sharp, because it allows you to do things that you just shouldn't be able to do in something this big and heavy. You can never totally forget about the weight and the size on road or on track, but it goes quite a long way to making up for it, the way that this car feels. And it's not just the quick steering, it's also the response from the accelerator pedal. It's the bite that you get from the brakes. It's all this sensitivity. It gives you the impression that you're driving something that is a sports car with 5 doors. There's obviously some trickery going on, I'm not denying that, but also you can't deny that what it's doing is incredibly effective. It's a pity that the Porsche hasn't got the carbon brake option ticked, because when you've got something that weighs this much, having the carbon stoppers, yeah, it makes quite a big difference. They are really, really powerful in the M5, and the regular brakes in the Panamera, yeah, they've got a decent feel, but they don't stand up to these. You need those carbon brakes. Gotta say, I'm not entirely convinced by the soundtrack on either car. I mean, they're both V8s, but they don't sound traditionally V8. They've both got augmented sound, but this I think just has a bit more fizz, a bit more excitement at the top end.
Overall, you could easily make a case for the Porsche to win this test. If you want a fast saloon car for everyday use, it has a better cabin than the BMW, a better ride, and the looks are far less controversial. Plus, when you get onto a fast, winding road, it is at least as quick as the BM. However, if you value fun and excitement behind the wheel over pretty much everything else, the M5 has to be the car to pick.
I'm fully aware that this car will not be for everyone. Many people, somewhat understandably, won't be able to go past the looks of it, the size of it, the complication, but I would encourage anyone to just try and get behind the wheel of the M5, because at the end of the day, it's still an M car, it is still a super saloon with a V8 engine, and they haven't completely forgotten what they are doing overnight. The Panamera is a good performance saloon, but this, I just can't help but be impressed by it.